So Mike, tell me, when people are able to tell their stories better and can be remembered, how does that really benefit them in real life?
Well, Jamie, people have been telling stories since the dawn of time. Before man could write, they were telling stories, and that's how they shared their knowledge. You think about 33,000 years ago in caves in France, they were drawing pictures of the hunt. And then Aesop's fables, and then we have modern day man who sits around in country clubs and lies about his golf game. I mean, we've been telling stories. So what we've determined is that stories create pictures that people remember the messages. I mean, if I say to you the tortoise and the hare, you know immediately what the story was and what the moral was, right?
Absolutely.
That's why we tell stories, because they create pictures in people's minds that anchor that message inside.
Great. So once we would learn to be able to tell stories better, what does that mean for us in the real world then?
Well, whether you're in a one-on-one selling situation, whether you're working with a small committee or speaking like we do often to large groups of people, it gets your message across.
Okay.
And that's what we're going to talk about in our 3D storytelling workshop.
Absolutely.
And you might even speak better than I do instead of stumbling on words.
Well, maybe.
But tell us a little bit about what we're going to do in the workshop.
Absolutely. Well, based upon what you just said, that stories connect and then stories can compel people to take action, and they're remembered no matter what setting it's in, whether it's an audience of one or an audience of 10,001. Learning to do that well is important, and this workshop is going to do that for you, for the participants. We're going to run them through a process of 3Ds, what we call 3D storytelling. The first D being discover your story. If you're breathing, you have a story. And most people know that innately, that there is something inside of them. They're just not sure exactly what it is, or sometimes they just think it's not important or that no one would really want to hear it. We're going to run through several activities and different processes that will pull those stories out of our audience members and then help them to see what the point or the message would be.
You're also going to help them understand why it's important.
And help them understand why it's important, absolutely. And that's what those activities will do. So that's the first D, discover your story. The second one is going to be develop. So now that we have the story in raw form on paper, it has to be developed and structured in a manner in which it can be told easily, can be told quickly sometimes, and it needs to be told in a manner in which the audience is going to be able to receive it and understand it. Okay. So we will also run through activities and run them, introduce them to different formats that will allow them to develop that story in a manner that it can be told well and received well. So that's the second D. We have discover, and then we have develop, and then the third D is delivery. So now that we have it put together and we're ready to tell it, there are different techniques that we can teach, or that we will teach the participants, that when they're actually on stage or sitting across the table from their audience of 1 or 10,001, that they can do to make impact as they tell their story. And we will walk them through different techniques and tools that they can use to do that. So that's the third D, is delivery. So we will help them discover their story, then develop their story, and then we will help them to deliver their story.
Okay, and at the end of the workshop, what will they have really to take with them, tangible?
I'm glad you asked that. At the end of the workshop, what our participants will walk away with will be a first draft of their signature story, developed and have some skills to put in place to then deliver it, that they have something they can go home and practice with, and it's going to be a repeatable process. So no matter when they're faced with that next sales presentation, the next presentation to their stakeholders or to the board of directors or to an audience of 10,000, they're going to have a repeatable process they can go through to say, how do I discover my story, how do I develop it, and then what are the skills I can use to deliver it well. That's what they will leave with.
Sounds like a great tangible benefit to take with them.
Absolutely.
We look forward to seeing you on June 8th.